Just do it. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back from the weekend. You're watching the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. What's today? Last day before NBA? Last
Yes, it
day
is.
before NBA? Yeah. You should be stoked. Milwaukee Bucks got Damian. If nothing else, it's going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, man, going to the opener on Thursday. And I don't typically play NBA DFS unless I get a lot of tickets. We've been running up the tickets for this Tuesday. So that 2-game slate can be plugged in.
Hell yeah, man. Happy to have you guys here. We got a fun one ahead of us. San Francisco 49ers traveling to Minnesota, facing the Vikings, 6.5-point favorites, 43-point total here. Yeah, you know what? This is one of those games where you have no Deebo Samuel, which clearly throws, a wrench into the works when you're trying to analyze this team. He's played every game. We had one game earlier without Brandon Ayuk. Maybe we can use that to take something away from this. We'll see. Christian McCaffrey is expected to play. It's more of a pain tolerance thing. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's on the IR. So, Matt, if you had previewed this game before the season started, or even around week 4, we'd be talking about a very different ball game than we've got tonight.
Absolutely. And now we get to talk about our favorite preseason heroes and try to decipher which one of them is going to be getting snaps and running routes, and maybe even carrying the ball, depending on how long McCaffrey makes it in this game. We talk about grease a lot, and we certainly have a greasy game here.
We do. It is a greasy game. How was your week 7?
Week 7 was pretty good, was very heavy on Lamar. The main problem was just not fitting the correct pieces with him all in one lineup. You got pieces here and there, and then suddenly you've got a Lockett that craters the lineup. Musgrave leaves with, I believe it was a concussion. They kind of called it an ankle injury. I don't know what he was hurt with. The guy just continually gets absolutely ravaged out there from Jordan Love throwing him hospital balls. But anyway, a lot of good pieces, just not all in the same lineup. So a lot of min cashes, slight profit. How about you?
Lost in DFS. Had a good betting day, though. Had a multi-unit play on Trey McBride overs. That was nice. Dude, he's their new tight end. Like, he is. Just
Yeah, he had more snaps 2 weeks ago. I didn't check the routes for this week yet, but by the box score, looked like you probably looked at this more than me. It looked like he was almost a full-time player.
Yeah, he had a really nice hurdle play, too. Arizona stack, which I had some of, didn't pan out. Dobbs had the rushing touchdown I was looking for. He had it. It just didn't play out, dude. They couldn't protect him. Every time I looked at that game, he was taking like a 17-yard sack. So that didn't work out. But Lamar, yeah, I had a lot of Lamar too. And those lineups looked super good early with Andrews, like single stacks and stuff, Dante Foreman. But then, I was underweight on the Chiefs side. And that hurt me for sure. Betting wise, I had the Chargers. That was the one loss. That was, a bigger play, but Broncos +1. Jordan Love stinks, guys. I'm telling you, the guy's not good. He's not, Matt. Jordan Love's not good. I don't know what people see in that guy.
I've been saying this since Utah State, dude.
Okay, so you were on the same page then.
I 100% agree with you. I thought he was the worst pick in the first round that year.
Yeah, there you go. He's any advanced metric too from this season would suggest. Also, guys, Denver's defense is not as bad as they looked earlier in the year. Well, we get into all that going in the week game. I'm not saying they're good. I'm saying they're not as bad as they were. They're not just like an instant stack 5 guys against them. Anyway, yeah, I got some stuff wrong for sure. Always going to happen. But I think the stuff I got wrong, that really burned me would probably be just, while I had Kelsey, I didn't have enough. He had a huge game. I didn't have enough Mahomes. Those were just, I had a bunch of Geno Smith, and he fell apart. And you mentioned it right at the top. I think the one part that I had a lot of Tyler Lockett. I really thought that against that, it's funny because Arizona lost that game, but Seattle's offense was dismal throughout the majority. Like, outside of that one big play to JSN, that offense stunk all game. And I also ate the chalk with guys like Jacobs and Kenneth Walker, which didn't help either.
Yeah, it was not the best day for chalk after it's been a pretty chalky season. Some of the guys got there, some did not. But yeah, it was kind of like Kelsey, didn't have him. You lost. There were a couple guys like that. I had one lineup that was actually really good. It punted twice at receiver, one with JSN, who ended up okay. Geno melted in the second half. But then to get to Kelsey, you need to punt somewhere else too. So my punt is
Josh
Jameson
Downs?
Williams.
Oh, okay.
Jameson Williams in that Lions game. Guy throws up a 0. This lineup finished top 2,000 in the big Millie with a goose egg from Jameson Williams on set 6 targets with Marvin Jones out. So that was the heart wrencher of the day for me. But yeah, man, he's dead to me.
Yeah, I bet the Ravens, sorry, in that game, because I thought that this is the prime spot where everyone loves the Lions. But from a DFS standpoint, you would have thought the Lions would have been able to do more than they did. They were dreadful all game long. It was
man.
brutal.
I was talking to Eric about that on Live Before Lock. They had faced just 4 of maybe the bottom 6 quarterbacks in the NFL in 4 consecutive weeks, and prior to that, Mahomes got him a little bit, and I can't remember who they faced in week 2, but they threw for over 300 yards.
Seattle.
Yeah, Geno got him bad, and then they faced like a combination of, I don't know, Baker, Bryce Young. I can't recall the 2 others, but just like terrible quarterbacks.
For sure. Anyway, let's move on. I had a pretty rough DFS week, so I would like to have amnesia here and forget about that to close out week 7 with the Vikings hosting the 49ers. As always, though, guys, hopefully you had a great weekend. Regardless, hope you had a good weekend. Betting, DFS, whatever it may be. If you can take a single second to atone for your sins here on a Monday morning, hit that thumbs up. It helps us greatly. That's all. Just a subtle reminder to hit that thumbs up, whether you're watching live or after the fact. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That goes a longer way for us than anything else. We appreciate you for it. And if you're listening in the afternoon, watching in the afternoon, leave a comment down below. We love reading and respond to all of those. And if you're listening in podcast form, last thing here, you can. All of our stuff is available in podcast form. If you don't want to listen here, maybe you don't have YouTube Premium, you want to be able to turn your phone off, you're listening in the car, you're mowing the lawn, whatever it may be, toss it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Check out our podcast exclusive content as well. We do that several times a week. That's only found in podcast form. So some benefits over there as well. And guys, leave a rating or a review for our podcast. Those reviews that we got earlier in the year were awesome. They were awesome, and we appreciate them. All right, so let's talk about it, Matt. First thing I want to dive into is this 49ers team without Deebo Samuel. We're going to work, obviously, under the assumption that Christian McCaffrey is going to play. I'll leave this up to you guys to assume how limited he's going to be. We don't know. There's a huge unknown here. But I will say, without Deebo Samuel, you're now looking at a team that we haven't seen this yet. But we did have a game without Brandon Ayuk earlier in the year where Deebo was active, Juwan Jennings was active, Ray McCloud got opportunities, Ronnie Bell scored. That was a primetime game, if you guys remember. What do you make of this game? Well, let me ask you like this. Do you think that we can take the week where, and I know they're not apples to apples, they're not the same player, but can we take the game that Brandon Ayuk missed and glean anything from that going into today, even though it's Deebo Samuel kind of as a proxy here?
Honestly, no. I was really surprised with what they did with their routes. In that game where Ayuk missed, it was Ronnie Bell who played a ton of snaps. Last week, it was Ray McCloud, and Ronnie Bell only played 1 snap. So I think these players just have clear-cut backups. For Ayuk, it's Ronnie Bell. For Deebo, it's Ray McCloud, and that kind of makes sense. Like Ray McCloud, he's their returner. So if you were trying to think of a backup guy, a shifty guy, you want to get the ball in space, I guess it's McCloud. He's definitely not Deebo, so that kind of doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather just get your 3 best receivers on the field, but that seems to be the way San Francisco views these players. I have a lot more interest in Ray for that reason, but at the end of the day, it's probably Ayuk that dominates targets here, wouldn't you think?
You would definitely think so. And by the way, the reason I asked you about week 3 and not last week when Deebo only played 9 snaps was because sometimes teams do weird stuff and their in-game adjustments are different than when they have a full week to prepare. You know what I mean? So I wanted to get your thoughts there if you thought anything could change. We see that a lot where obviously Brian Hoyer started yesterday. He was, holy shit, was he terrible. But there was conversation about it potentially being Aiden O'Connell, who started in week 4, but was inactive last week when Brian Hoyer came in for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo. So yeah, wasn't sure if you thought maybe we'd see something after a full week of preparation here with Deebo out, but I guess what you're saying is it's probably wiser to look at week 6 than it is to look at week 3 when Brandon Ayuk didn't play and just say, you know what, it's probably going to be a lot of Ray McCloud, because you're right. Ronnie Bell was active and only played 1 snap last week.
Honestly, dude, I'm not sure. So I kind of tried to dig into this before the show, and some of the San Francisco beats were saying that they just use one of these receivers, Ronnie Bell, as the clear backup to Ayuk, and then you had Ray the clear backup to Debo, which maybe this changes. I legitimately don't know. So I'm trying to use like the information that those close to the team provide and why maybe they made this switch. That's the most logical explanation to me, is that they just have these receivers playing backups to different players ahead of them. But yeah, man, I think Ronnie Bell's a more talented player than Ray McLeod. I'm still going to throw some darts on him, but I'm using week 6 as the better proxy, if that makes sense.
No, I think you're right. I definitely think that would be, just because Debo hardly played. We have to assume that they do something similar here. I will say George Kittle too. George Kittle's the type of guy that you can use either Debo. It doesn't matter who you're taking out, Debo or Ayuk. If you're taking one of those guys off the field, George Kittle, becomes your de facto 1 or 2 guy. I'll say 2 behind Ayuk, in the passing game. You can say what you want about McCaffrey, but you know what I'm saying here. I almost hope he performs terribly today, so I don't have to hear about, well, if he did it yesterday, it would have been, better because it was National Tight Ends Day. God, who gives a shit? I don't know if you watched any of these games yesterday, but the amount of times they mentioned that pointless nonsense. Oh, well, there's another touchdown for National Tight Ends Day for whoever celebrates. Nobody celebrates. What are you talking about? Like, I understand that this is just a gimmick that they're running, but I swear, Matt, I heard it 47 times before halftime in the 1 p.m. games.
Yeah, Scott Hansen, or whatever Hansen he is, I always forget his first name.
Chris Hansen is To Catch a Predator. Scott Hansen is football. We don't want to mix them.
I mix them up all the time. My
I know
apologies.
You do. Well, no, you always get it right. You just are never confident that you're right in getting it right.
I don't know if I'll ever be confident in that dude, but yeah, he was eating that shit up, and he also loves the Taylor Swift stuff. If you watch Red Zone, hopefully you have a high tolerance for nonsense, because man, is this supposed to mean something? Why are we talking about this?
Oh God, every time there was a play for Kansas City, they'd flash the Taylor Swift going, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I know that. I know that's annoying to you and me both.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not the type of person that's spamming on Twitter. Like, nobody cares, but I'm here and I have a platform to say it's stupid and I hate it. Am I not going to watch because of it? No, but nobody cares.
You have to watch.
What's that?
You have to watch.
Yeah. Look, when they break up in 4 months, all the Taylor Swift fans, I promise you, aren't going to be now watching Red Zone. It doesn't work like that.
I'm baffled they watch Red Zone to begin with. Aren't they fans of her music? Like, why are they watching her sitting at a game?
Right. They weren't watching Red Zone. They were probably just watching Chiefs Chargers game of the week. But
it was a good game. First one Taylor Swift's been to that hasn't been atrocious.
Yo, have you seen this stuff that Brandon Staley does? I'm not trying to shame the man at all. I'm not. But he does this really weird thing with his teeth and his mouth on the sidelines. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Dude, he has this facial expression. I took a video of it. I'm going to send it to you. Maybe I'll tweet it later. It looks like he just tasted a fart, right? Like he has his teeth are like that, and he's licking his teeth, and it made me very uncomfortable.
Well, I'm excited to see this now. It sounds really weird.
I'm going to send it. Matter of fact, at some point where you're talking in this show, I'm going to send it to you. And then when I'm talking, I want you to watch it and tell me that I'm not wrong in thinking that it was a very unsettling behavior on the sidelines. Anyway, as far as the top pass catchers go for the 49ers, Kittle's like the most, Kittle has to be the most volatile play from week to week, right? He has 2 games with under 2 fantasy points. He has one with 6, one with 5. Really just some ugly stuff. I last week, I don't really care about it. It was against Cleveland. Cleveland shut him down. And then Cleveland's defense disintegrates yesterday. Disintegrates against Gardner Minshew running in 20-yard touch, whatever. I'm not going to get into it. But George Kittle's at that price point without Deebo Samuel. Man, that seems really underpriced for a guy that we know is very capable of breaking off massive games. The only question I have for you now is, while we know he can do that, like that 3-touchdown game against Dallas, I don't want to ignore the fact that he had 3 touchdowns on 3 receptions and 4 targets.
Volume has not been good. His target share is 16% on the year. And yeah, that's going to increase without Deebo Samuel, but to what margin? Ayuk has a 30% target share. Like, he's definitely getting that or more. And then what do we think it'll get to? I think 25% would be very optimistic for him, because you're still going to have other players on the field. Like, Juwan Jennings plays a bit. You're now going to have some combination of Ray McLeod and Ronnie Bell. And when Ronnie Bell played in week 3, I believe it was, he actually had a decent target share himself. So that says to me, San Francisco is very willing to give some of these depth pieces targets as well. So I'm still nervous about Kittle. I think he's a little expensive on this slate for me. For reference, I would rather just find the salary to get up to Ayuk, who I believe is way safer. His role is incredible. I mean, just comparing the two, Kittle 16% target share, 15.5% air yard share. Now, he plays a different position than Ayuk, but these Ayuk numbers are staggering. Almost a 54% air yard share and 30% target share. Those are with game, including the Deebo games. When you remove Deebo, Ayuk just goes through the moon on some of these targets he sees. So, like, small field, cash games, anything like that, I think you're just looking at so much more safety with Ayuk compared to Kittle.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a question too. Where was it? From Ricky. Will Kittle be blocking more with Trent Williams out? And Trent Williams, I believe, doubtful, right? Or out. Doesn't matter. He's
not going to play.
Yeah. I feel like Ayuk and the RBs will get all the targets. So I look at it 2 ways. Kittle's definitely going to block, but I also think he could play 100% of snaps in this game.
Yeah, it's not just Kittle they use for blocking. They bring in Charlie Warner. They use use checks. They do a lot of like creative things to mask some of their pass blocking deficiencies when they have them. Usually it's a good offensive line, but losing Trent Williams, it's a big loss. I don't know what they're going to do exactly, but in the past, they've kind of taken a committee approach where sometimes Kittle blocks more. Maybe they have more snaps for use check, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kittle played 98% of snaps last week.
Yeah, he probably plays 100 tonight. They'd be dumb not to.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's probably plays 100% of snaps.
Yeah.
So there's that. And that's pretty helpful. Ayuk, is Ayuk the best play in the game?
I think this depends on where you project McCaffrey.
For sure.
So I went around and there's not going to be consensus on this because we are working with incomplete information. But I looked at our projection just like versus everyone across the industry who has projections. Right now, I don't do the projections for NFL, but I'm guessing we have him more limited than anyone else. There's a couple sources that have him projected, which seems like 100% workload. We're a little bit shy of that. So if you're using our projections, you're going to get more Ayuk for sure, just taking away some of the targets McCaffrey gets. But I mean, unless we get like a Shefty report or something throughout the day, this is a field-based thing. And I think Ayuk, his viability depends heavily on McCaffrey, and it's just because of alternatives at the captain spot. I think Ayuk's already really safe in a good captain spot to begin with, but if we remove some of the McCaffrey work, like Ayuk might be the safest captain on the entire slate. So I think these two hinge on each other a little bit.
You know, you've mentioned this on a show before that projections include human input, right? Like
someone has to go in and do these things.
Right. They're the product of that. So you're going to have to draw some of your conclusions here on your own when it comes to McCaffrey. You're going to have to. I'm personally, Matt, I'm going to lean on the side of he's not going to be limited, but Elijah Mitchell is still going to get some opportunities. Like, that's how I see it. I don't look at this as that Christian McCaffrey is going to be limited in the sense that he plays 40% of snaps, but I think maybe you could see you know what? That's not even fair of me to say. I think it's going to be game script dependent too. I think it's possible that this is game script dependent. Like, remember that game against the Giants earlier in the season? We talked about it. It was a primetime game. I believe that was the one actually that Ronnie Bell scored. And right. I think that was the one that Ronnie Bell scored. Yeah. And Ayuk was out, I think. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. I think he was, though. He was. Christian McCaffrey got work in that game, but Mitchell did too, because Giants couldn't produce anything offensively. If something similar happens here, where San Francisco coming off a brutally ugly loss against the Cleveland Browns. You know, it was the talk of the town. Now they're coming in, they're 6.5-point favorite. Let's just say that they go up real early and they're moving the ball. Defense is stout. I think that is one of those scenarios where you see more Elijah Mitchell. If you're talking about a game that is, you know, highly competitive throughout, and they need offense, and dare I say they're kind of struggling, I think you get more Christian McCaffrey in that sense, more volume. Now, the efficiency thing is an entirely different conversation, because Christian McCaffrey could just rip off 2 huge touchdowns early on, and then his volume goes down a little bit. They work Elijah Moore in. But we've seen Kyle Shanahan do this before. I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like, we've seen them do that in favorable situations. So I'm going to operate on the assumption that Christian McCaffrey is pretty fine, but also I'm not ruling out Elijah Mitchell as a viable option either.
I think you broke that down really well. For DFS purposes, we know that the public is really risk averse, whether it's Lamar Jackson and the 12-mile-an-hour winds he had to face last game, or injury situations. People don't want to take zeros in their lineup or end up with players like Bijan yesterday, which was unknown, but they don't want that in their lineups where it's risky. You might end up with a 0 or a big score. McCaffrey falls into that. So I think you're going to be able to get some decent leverage with him tonight. And I 100% agree with you on the role. We've seen them be cautious with backs in the past, including McCaffrey. If he wasn't 100%, I don't think Shanahan plays him. He's had confidence in Mitchell in the past. We've seen players like Jordan Mason pop up, and even worse players than that play for this team. But also, we had the one road game where McCaffrey and Mitchell were both healthy, and then McCaffrey handled like 100% of the touches. Right after the game, Shanahan came out and said he didn't want that to be the case moving forward, wants McCaffrey available for the long haul, and Mitchell's a very capable backup. After that, we saw the split similar to last year where, okay, Mitchell's actually getting more work, and it's a split, but in high leverage situations, it's still McCaffrey. So your breakdown, I think, was awesome. If you think this gets out of hand, I would play a little more Mitchell. If you think the game remains competitive, going to be heavy on McCaffrey. And I think I'm just going to end up being heavy on McCaffrey anyway because of the potential leverage. And even if it gets to a blowout, you know, like say this is a 21-point win for San Francisco, McCaffrey probably had something to do with that.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I guess the only question I have, though, is would you go Mitchell or Mason looking at last week's opportunities?
Mitchell, I watched the post-game press conference, and Shanahan basically kind of said, like, Mitchell's been working through injuries all season. He kind of said something along the lines of, like, we've had Mitchell in our program for a long time now, and Mitchell's earned a lot of work for us. So I think what that says to me is the guy is still working through some injuries. He's going to come back and play that same change of pace role. And you look at the injury report this week, Mitchell seems good to go. He's not even listed.
Yep. And to your point, based on what you just mentioned in Kyle Shanahan actually was true to his word last time he said something similar to this. After week 2, where Mitchell didn't touch the ball and McCaffrey played like 100% of snaps, it was that week 3 game against the Giants where he is like, we got to get him more involved. Like, he's a big piece of this team. He ended up seeing 14 touches in that game, 11 carries and 3 receptions. So I'm not saying you should be projecting him for 14 touches, but when Shanahan said this last time, this season, only a handful of weeks ago, Mitchell actually ended up coming out and getting his biggest workload of the season and played 34% of 28 total snaps in that game. So that may be indicative of something similar that you could see tonight. Look, I don't think either you or myself are confident at his price point that he's just a great play, but I don't want to rule him out either because he could fall into the end zone.
Absolutely. He's not going to project well just because of that price point. But I mean, there's ways to play him, be contrarian. And like a lot of our tools have ways where you can manually sort of adjust game script where I imagine you would get more of him. Like, I haven't built this yet, but you and I talk about this a lot. You're almost telling yourself a story. And if you think the 49ers are going to win by more than the projected spread, you can boost that in our tools. So yeah, just like straight up looking at our leverage score, he's negatively leveraged. But then if you change the game script to something you believe might be more likely, that's also going to affect the leverage scores. And in blowouts, Mitchell's going to be a much better play.
Yeah. Yep. Hey Jizzle, that's an interesting name. Asked, what is the promo code for Owner's Box? All right, yeah. So if you're trying to get the free week of all of our tools, so if you do it today, you're getting Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday main slate, afternoon, Sunday showdown, next Monday night. You're getting all of that. All of our tools, the Sims tool, contest generator, lineup generator, ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, top single game and showdown plays tool that Matt and I are going to dig into right now. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it. Some very interesting numbers there. You're looking at leverage scores, top play probability, optimal captain, optimal utility spot. It's the best tool you're going to find for showdown, hands down. Anyway, premium Discord, all of our tools. You don't need any add-ons. You get 100% of our tools for free for the entirety of the week, every single slate when you sign up at Owner's Box. That's what our friend K Jizzle was asking about. The link is in the description. You don't need a promo. So if you click that link, sign up, it might ask you for a promo. The link is all you need. Deposit a minimum of $10. They do have a $500 first match deposit bonus there. So definitely take advantage of that if you have the means to do so. They've had a lot of overlay. They have awesome super flex contests for main slate, but you don't need a promo. It's just a link. $10 minimum deposit. Jump in, get all of our free tools. So if you do it and you want to get an expedient response, email us at support@stochastic.com. Like, they'll email you, but I would, if once you sign up and deposit, if you're trying to get those tools quickly for tonight and get them early, just email us. Mike, can you do me a favor? Can you throw the email into chat as well? But yeah, if you're not there, check it out. We had a guy just the other week win the showdown slate when we ran the lineup simulator tool, or the lineup sim for Owner's Box, because we have all the tools for Owner's Box on the site as well. We ran that on the live before lock. Neil and myself, he plugged it in on his phone, as a matter of fact, and ended up winning. So that was great to see. Check it out. Get the free week. Everything on the site. You got it. Link in the description. Link in chat. Every tool we have for NFL for the entirety of the week. It's an amazing deal. It's an amazing deal that you no risk in doing so. Because even the $10 or more that you're putting on the Owner's Box, you can still turn that into a lot more money. All right. Any other? So McCaffrey and Ayuk are clearly the top two. I'll say like I did. I think McCaffrey's going to be fine. I don't know why they would play him if he wasn't able to handle most of the workload. Where do you find, I just want your take on this. Where do you land on McCaffrey? What is your personal belief or thought process going into him, given that he's dealing with this oblique?
I think he's going to be fine and play close to his normal work share. Now, I mean, normal work share is in the post week 2 after that monster workload when Kyle Shanahan said he wanted to get Eli Mitchell more involved. I think it is going to be like the 80-20, 70-30 split we normally see. But I don't think McCaffrey is playing any less than that. We have a history of Kyle Shanahan being cautious with his backs, including McCaffrey. If he wasn't 100%, I don't think we'd see him at all. He's been very confident in the backups. So to me, I'm going to play a lot of McCaffrey in the chance that the field does not react to this way. And I think fine at the captain spot. The guy has million touch upside.
He does, especially if this game stays close. Plus, Vikings defense is nowhere near as potent as the Cleveland Browns. So I know the Browns had a bad week yesterday as far as defensively, but yeah, Ayuk and McCaffrey. A lot of comments in chat saying there's no way you win with Ayuk or McCaffrey at captain. I mean, that's one way to look at it, I suppose.
Win what? The Millie?
Yeah.
There's no Millie tonight. The 500K?
Yeah.
Why?
Because people don't think it's doable.
I build a lineup I really like with McCaffrey captain. I think it's winning.
Who was the captain yesterday in the showdown winner for Sunday night?
I actually didn't play last night. I had a prior commitment, so I made the wise decision not to jam entries at like noon without the news.
Chat will tell us. Chat, I bet it wasn't somebody that's dirt cheap.
I mean, so Showdown's tricky. Depends on the size of your field. You're playing small field. I certainly think it's one of these two guys. If you're playing large field, yeah, maybe the lineups are a little more duplicated, but you can definitely build unique lineups with these players. We talk about tools all the time you can use to still have some of these guys at your captain spot. One easy strategy is just leaving some salary on the table. That way you don't have to completely play like these dust balls near the stone min, but there's actually plenty of those guys around too. You can build unique constructions like maybe don't use a quarterback in a lineup. Maybe you play like a defense against your captain. There's like tons of stuff you can do to relieve ownership. So like I think that notion is a little overblown.
Everyone said it was AJ Brown. Big Dan T said solo ship.
Oh, see, solo shipper with AJ Brown. Yeah, okay.
But someone just said, have fun splitting it first 1K ways.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
maybe if you
saying. Like
play the
AJ,
projected optimal, don't play the number one optimal.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like it was AJ Brown. The guy was massively expensive, and he ended up having, I think, like 11 for 131 and a touchdown or something, Matt. You know what I mean? So, you obviously you get it. I'm just saying, like, there's ways to get different with the good players at captain.
There's also lineups that are duped that are still plus EV. It's when you run into like the 1,000 dupe trains. But I mean, like you can play. So you're telling me in chat, like if you had the shipper split one or two ways, like you wouldn't be happy with like 100K tonight?
Right.
Yeah, it's like dupes aren't everything. You just can't have the lineups that are duped like hundreds of times.
AJ Brown over his last 5 weeks has 125 plus receiving yards in all of them. It's nuts. Ever since he really complained about not getting targets, which by the way, I think he was targeted 8 times in that game that he complained about.
But that's always the thing. I love when guys complain about targets. It's like, all right, Marquise Brown, how would you like to go play for Josh Dobbs and get 8 targets and 2 of them are catchable? Yeah, right. Like you get 7 in Baltimore with Lamar, but it's like, all right, we'll trade you to Arizona. You get 1 extra target, but you can't catch all but 2 of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, he's getting 10 targets a game. He's getting three receptions. So yeah, hasn't looked particularly good for them. Man, Tennessee Titans, that's rough. Basically like AJ Brown for Treylon Burks in a way for them.
That was the worst trade I've ever seen.
They didn't want to pay him. And then you know what happened? If you want a good receiver, you have to pay him unless it's on a rookie contract. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, man. You don't want to pay him, that's cool, but enjoy losing.
Yeah. What would they be better off with? Derrick Henry and Treylon Burks, or Tajay Spears on a rookie contract and AJ Brown?
It's a no-brainer.
Right?
It's a no-brainer.
Total no-brainer. Total no-brainer. Isn't that funny though? Like as good. By the way, I love Derrick Henry. This is no knock on Derrick Henry. I'm sure you have over the year. Like you have to have immense amount of respect for Derrick Henry. He's the man. Like one of the most fun players to watch in the last 5 or 6 years. Am I wrong? When he's healthy?
You're right. I love Derrick Henry.
But giving him a big contract, you see what happens. Just way more longevity with these receivers and way more of a difference maker. So it's tough, dude. It's tough. They got rid of their GM because of that. They'll probably never admit that's why, but we all know that's why. So yeah.
Fireable offense.
For sure. For sure. Shouldn't have been allowed to happen. There should have been some veto process. But what else are you doing with the 49ers before we move on to the Vikings side here? I think we got through most of the top guys. I still think despite the infrequent targets, that George Kittle on a showdown slate at that price is always viable. Like I look at George Kittle and I say, if he was 9K, I would be very concerned. 7,200, I'm perfectly fine with Kittle at captain. I'm perfectly fine with him at the flex. No issues with that at all because I know that he has multi-touchdown upside. And I know that Deebo Samuel is out of this game. And I know that the Vikings can't defend the pass well. So, yeah, I think the price point makes it to where he's perfectly fine. I love Kittle. Kittle, knowing that he can rip off 2 touchdowns to me is enough. What are you doing with the rest of this offense?
Kittle's a guy generally on showdown slates. I rely on the tools because he's so volatile. So if they tell me he's under-owned, I try to come in a little overweight, which is the case tonight. If he's over-owned for whatever reason, then I try to come in under. You just got a really wide range of outcomes. But ultimately, I agree with you. I think he's the 3rd priority among pass catchers. 4 is Ray McLeod for me. He's cheap. I am still worried about the role. They've funneled tons of targets to their top 2 pass catchers, and McCaffrey could honestly take on a larger share as well in the pass game. Then with McLeod, we don't necessarily know it's him. I think we can reasonably predict that, but I don't think anyone would be surprised to see Ronnie Bell or Jennings play more snaps. Like Ray McLeod outsnapped Jennings last week, which was a big surprise to me, but he's 2,200. So, I mean, what can you really say about that? It's hard to go wrong. He would really need a complete air ball to burn you there. I think the real debate is, do we prefer Ray McLeod or some of the punts on Minnesota? And with this spread coming in 7, 6.5, I think I'd rather just take the volume with the cheap Minnesota guys. where McLeod very well could get you 2 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. A guy like, I mean, Powell, maybe he gets you like 6 targets. So I think it's just safer on the Minnesota side, which we'll talk about in a second.
For sure. Okay, so then let's close them out with this. McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, yeah, pretty obvious. But if you're talking non-big 3 for San Francisco, and not Debo, sorry, McCaffrey, Ayuk, and Kittle, and you're including Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, and all those guys, how would you rank them as far as priority goes, including the cheap pass catchers as well?
McLeod 1, I would prefer him to Jennings, price adjusted, and he played more. So that's why I think McLeod is a little bit safer, because you don't have to pay $4K for Jennings, but Jennings would be 2, another price thing. 3 is going to be Mitchell. I think if you can fit him, he's excellent, but you do have to sacrifice if you're playing Eli Mitchell in your lineups, just price above 5K. It's a little rich. Clear path to a ceiling if there's a blowout situation, but still not easy. Beyond that, I would say Ronnie Bell is 4, Kyle Juszczyk 5. The backup tight ends they use are basically blockers. So it's kind of sparse once you get behind Eli Mitchell, Ray McLeod, and Juwan Jennings.
All right. I like it. We already talked some Vikings here, the Justin Jefferson-less Vikings.
Yeah, what a mess, man. What a mess.
God, it's brutal.
It's sad.
It is sad. It is. Pour one out for our boys Eric Lindquist and Neil Orfield, huh?
For real. I've been a Bears fan my whole life. Vikings, not much better.
No, they're living a tough life over there. There's no doubt about it. One more thing, guys, before we hit Vikings here. You guys already know, but we got 500 plus people. By the way, almost at 100 likes. Thank you. We only asked once. We got a good crew around here. But I know there's a lot of new people that watch this show from week to week. You know, maybe you're just diving into the NFL streets or DFS streets. You're just finding us. Welcome. If you're in Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, or Kentucky, Bet365 is giving you $150 when you bet $5. If you're in Kentucky specifically, they're giving you $365 when you bet $1. The link's in the description, by the way. It's in chat as well. You click it. It takes 2 minutes to sign up, deposit $10 minimum, nothing, and bet $5. Whether you win or lose, doesn't matter. You're getting $150. If you're in Kentucky, deposit 10, bet $1, 10% of that, get $365 in bonus bets. It's that simple. Like, you know, seriously, I've said it a million times, but the just a thought that in a couple minutes of your time throughout a day, because everyone has a couple minutes, whether it's a break from work, whether it's a break from this, whatever, or maybe you're even working and you decide to do it anyway on your phone because your computer at work doesn't allow it. It's 2 minutes. It's $150 in 2 minutes. It's $365 in 2 minutes if you're in Kentucky. And I'm serious when I say like 2-3 minutes. I'll tell you what, Matt, I had a good day betting. I know a lot of people are just like straight DFS or straight whatever, but I had a good day betting that certainly made up for some of those DFS losses. DFS in many cases is like a zero. It's one of those things where, you know, you could break even or you could just straight zero out on a bad week. And in betting, yeah, you could zero out, but it's really tough to do so. Like, even if you are a bad bettor, most of the time you're just going to bleed out to the VIG, but you're getting free money out of the gate that's preventing you from having that loss even if you lose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, you're watching this show, I would anticipate you're just not stone dead betting anyway, and these promos help you a ton with your bottom line. Plus, it's nice to use your knowledge across multiple domains. So it's not just DFS. You can spread your risk around through betting, get into the player prop market, especially if you're a DFS guy. Like, you should know the player prop market pretty well. And that is a highly exploitable area as long as you're betting intelligently.
Yeah, I love the player prop market, man. I absolutely love. I mean, I can't bet college football player props in PA. By the way, like I said, Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa. That's bet 5, get 150. Link down there and in chat. Kentucky's bet 1, get 365. $10 deposit, but it doesn't matter if you win or lose your bet. They're giving you that anyway. Must be 21 years old or to gamble. If you're someone who has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER, 18 plus in Kentucky. Can you bet? Oh wait, so you have to take other avenues, but like, I know Prize Picks has college football props, and I was talking to Ben about this the other day. how soft are college football props if you know what you're doing, especially if you're a DFS player?
Yeah, they're pretty soft. I do play on Prize Picks quite a bit. Had a really bad weekend this week, but the 2 prior weeks, 3 prior weeks actually. I mean, on Prize Picks, you got to put those legs together, but we cashed on 3 of the last 4 weeks. If you could play these solo, I mean, you'd be making a lot of money.
Yeah, just straight wagers. Yeah. But Bet365 has college props as well. I'm just saying in PA, unfortunately, I can bet college games, but I can't do college props. PA is weird. I can play whatever DFS, but I can't play second half DFS games.
That is really weird.
Right?
All the states, man, state by state, such weird legislation.
I used to love college football DFS.
It's so fun.
I can't play it.
You should move.
I loved it, man. Can't play it.
That sucks.
That's when you used to have to play a tight end. You don't have to play a tight end anymore, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you used to have to plug a tight end in there. That's how long it's not been allowed in PA. Anyway, Vikings. God, you look at this team. You look at this team last week, and you're like, hey, this should have been a pretty decent spot against the Chicago Bears. It turns out that last week, all you really got was defensive performance from the Minnesota Vikings. I think they had a defensive touchdown in that game. You really, I mean, God, with no Justin Jefferson, you thought things could have looked pretty good. I will say this much, and you know what else was crazy? You want to talk about target shares? Listen to this target distribution from Kirk Cousins to Minnesota Vikings pass catchers. Hawkinson 8, Madison 7, Osborne 5, Addison 5, Brandon Powell 4, Akers had 1, and that's it. That's what you got. So when you've got something that flat across the board, how do we look at it today, and how much are we factoring in price and ownership for a one-game showdown?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing, and not to jump past the studs, but we've got Brandon Powell sitting at a really cheap price tag here. He had 26 routes on 34 dropbacks, so very healthy participant. He's not coming off the field a lot. And then if they're going to spread these targets, man, I think he's your preferred value play. He's going to be the guy that opens your slate for Ayuk, McCaffrey, quarterback of your choice, whatever stud you like, it's Powell. So I know we don't typically start with the value guys, but I think for the reasons you mentioned, he's just the first player we need to talk about because he's the access point to all the other good plays. Now for tournaments, you want to fade a guy like that. He's definitely volatile. And there's other options like a Ray-Ray McCloud you could get to, but I think he's just the safest overall.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, none of the price points are absurd. Osborne 6,400 in the flex. Powell, what, 2,800?
Yeah.
Addison 7,600. Hawkinson 88. The only thing that sucks about TJ Hawkinson here is his season. No, like he's been fine. He's been fine for a tight end, right? I bet if you went and looked at tight end rankings, like where they are in fantasy points per game, TJ Hawkinson's still going to be top 5. Plus he had a big game against Philly, but he's really only had one big game. And I think after last season, when he came over in that trade with Detroit, we were expecting big things. And then Justin Jefferson goes down against Kansas City. Hawkinson still had 8 targets, 6 for 50. It's not like he had a bad game. But the problem that I have here is that this is a really good defense they're going up against. So should we be looking for the value here as far as pass catchers go over the top options, given how tough it is? Or should we be saying, all right, you know what, Hawkinson is the guy? Or because Jordan Addison had a few good games early in the year, but they felt like ceiling games. Wasn't out there for a ton. He was still playing less than KJ Osborne, but he found the end zone in back-to-back weeks to start the season. Like at that price point, would you say that Addison is overpriced, underpriced, where he should be? Same thing with a guy like KJ Osborne.
I think Addison is pretty efficiently priced, and I think both Hawkinson and Osborne are a little bit expensive. Once you get up to the Hawkinson territory, I'd rather just find the extra salary for the San Francisco studs. You have a higher team total, your scoring expectations higher, and then your target distribution is narrower. You broke down the Minnesota targets beautifully earlier. It's pretty spread, even though Hawkinson, you were going to project this for tonight. Yeah, you'd project him with the highest target share, but Ayuk's at 30%. Even Kittle in a game without Debo rises up, probably somewhere similar to what Hawkinson's going to receive. Then you talk about matchup and scoring expectation. It's hard for me to click his name when you have similar volume, a little bit cheaper with Jordan Addison. I'm still going to keep buying Addison, their first round rookie pick. KJ Osborne's very much just a guy out there. And I think at some point he has to be, Addison that is, has to be the guy they lean on if they're going to be competitive in games. Then, of course, you got Powell at the very different price tag. He stands out just as the avenue to the studs.
Yeah, the only thing about KJ Osborne keeping him relevant is the fact that he never leaves the field.
Which is, if that is how your offense plays, you deserve to be whatever the Vikings record is, 1-5.
93% of snaps last week, though, Matt. Like
you can't find a guy better than KJ Osborne. The guy couldn't even start in college.
Yeah, I know. He's always out there. He is always out there. 86% of snaps for Madison, 60 for Powell. And then Jackson and N'Keal Harry played a combined 5 snaps. That's
oh my gosh.
Why, you're a big N'Keal Harry guy?
No, you said N'Keal Harry. Like
he played a snap. Wasn't he a first round pick? Wasn't he a late first round pick?
Pick 32 by the Patriots, I think in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. God. Safe to say that didn't materialize.
This is an XFL team.
How about the Patriots beating the Bills?
That was wild. What a crazy game. I watched some of that game. Bill Belichick, man. What a win to get to 300, I believe.
He did get to 300. When I saw that on the broadcast, I was like, man, that's got to feel good, because surely they're not a good football team, but to get that win at home against the Bills are what, 4-3 now?
I was going to ask you, how much of that did you think was it, the Bills getting in their own way versus like Patriot game planning?
I think it's both, but doesn't it feel like oftentimes the Bills get in their own way a lot?
Yeah, they do.
Right? Like
they do, yeah.
Yeah, feel that loss to the Jets, the Bills got in their own way a ton.
Sometimes I think it's Allen feeling like he has to put the team on his back.
100%.
In previous renditions of the Bills before like Diggs and stuff, yeah, you kind of had to do that, but I like their skill position players. You get 2 capable tight ends, James Cook, Diggs. Like, you don't have to throw the ball double coverage downfield, man. Like, you can take your checkdowns, you can run.
James Cook is not a bad player either. We saw some nice playmaking from him as a receiver. I still think that most Buffalo fans, and I'm just saying, maybe I'm wrong, guys, to you Buffalo fans out there, I feel like most of them would say they need a better wide receiver too than Gabe Davis, who is just kind of there or he isn't.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like that, but I mean, the team was a weird overtime rule away from the Super Bowl, basically.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I mean, Gabe Davis is not ideal wide receiver too, but yeah, they've gotten basically there already with him.
Pat's getting that win though. And hey, shout out to Mac Jones on that last drive. He actually made some plays.
He did, and I don't know, people seem to want to sell Mac Jones. It's like, how do you think you would do out there? Or how do you think like Tua Tagovailoa would do out there with Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry? Probably not good.
No, probably not good at all. I did like Kendrick Bourne a decent amount yesterday. He ended up being fine. I think he had like 5 for 70 and a touchdown or something.
He was good, man. I have a huge blind spot for him.
In the wrong direction?
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was a blind spot. Like, I just play him every week. He's
That'd
not
be
that
wild.
bad. He's not terrible.
No, he's not.
But also, if you just put him on any other team with capable pass catchers, he's like the 3 or 4. I totally get that. But on this team, you don't have any other options. So it's KJ Bourne or nobody. How about the fact, though, so how about this? Cam Akers has played 3 games now. He played 29% of snaps, 29%, and 16. Madison in those games, 69% of snaps, 51, 79% of snaps last week for Alexander Madison. So it appears that Kevin O'Connell may have had a bit of an experimentation process over the few weeks that Cam Akers played. Last week, though, despite the lack of production from Madison, decided to go back to him. He had 25 looks, 18 attempts, 7 targets, 25 looks, 22 touches. Hey, tough matchup, ugly matchup. But if you're getting a, let's say, bell cow running back, I'm going somewhere here. because I hate this matchup. But if you're getting a running back that is seeing potentially this many opportunities, even if you took a few off the top and you're like, yeah, he could see 20, because the first game with Akers, he saw 20 looks. Kansas City was ugly from the jump. That just got out of hand. If you have that in the cards, 6,600 on a showdown slate seems pretty cheap. He's just not very good, but 6,600 seems pretty cheap.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think this is a spot where people also might fade Madison a little bit because of how bad he's been.
Right.
Every one of us has been burned by Madison at some point, but he's priced to play, and the role has gone back to what we saw at the beginning of the season. Cam Akers just completely on ice. He's the fourth highest leverage player in our tools. So, you see the 25 touch game and you're like, damn, I might buy on Madison. Let's see what the tools say. Hopefully everyone's not playing him. And it turns out not enough people are playing him. He's also in a spot that's kind of a little sparse for DFS. Like, the alternatives you're considering in this range are players like Osborne himself. Down a little bit, you have Eli Mitchell, who I like, but he needs to be in a specific construction. So I think you can land on him a lot, be a little different in your lineups, and actually feel pretty good about it. I don't even hate him in like a very contrarian captain build. Say you're playing the 500K tournament tonight. I don't anticipate him being owned at all there.
For sure. And you did mention something interesting when you said when you were talking about Mitchell. It's kind of crazy that Madison's only $1,000 more expensive than Mitchell.
Yes, very crazy.
And Mitchell's not getting a lot of ownership either. That's why Mitchell, if you're playing Mitchell today, I think that'll be super contrary. We have him only 9% in the Utah. I'm looking at our top stacks or top single game plays tool. Not a guy that you'd want to play at captain. No real leverage there. But we have him sub 10% owned in the utility spot. But I will say too, we have Mitchell negatively leveraged here, even at the utility spot. So interesting to look at something like that when you're pulling up our tools and you're looking at what leverage these guys have. George Kittle, as you mentioned, has real positive leverage. Brandon Powell at 2,800. And Mike, you can pull up the top single game and showdown plays tool. Brandon Powell leverage is significant on this slate, man. Given what we have, and we still have him getting owned. We have him as a 11% optimal captain on this slate because of what it opens up for you. That probably stands out to me more than anything else looking at the tools.
I honestly had kind of glossed over that. I just went right to the far right where I'm like, damn, 50 or nearly 16% positive leverage score. I didn't even look at the captain. I wasn't considering him there, but yeah, apparently not enough people are doing that, which is weird because normally you've got like a punt captain and you just jam in all the studs. So those lineups aren't that unique, but this honestly could be a slate where it's just like, we have a lot of studs. We have all the San Francisco guys. You've got Hawkinson, Cousins, Madison's at a mid price. Yeah. Like Powell doesn't necessarily lead you to a certain build either.
It kind of does make sense too. He's not exciting. It's a tough matchup, but he has a 13% target share, 10 targets over the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Not to mention that Justin Jefferson was targeted 6 times in that Kansas City game. You could see a 6 target game or something like that from Brandon Powell. You're going to be okay with that for sure. Anything else what's that?
Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I'm just like, I can't believe we're in this world where Brandon Powell is our highest leverage player.
I know, it's gross. But you know that happens, especially when you've got really expensive guys that you want to jam to, like McCaffrey and Ayuk and Kittle. Not expensive, but there's a lot of good plays on this slate. Hawkinson's pretty expensive. If you're looking at the tool, if you're just pulling this up now, Mike's got it on the screen. Is there anything else that stands out to you? Like, for example, me, and you mentioned, I thought it was a great point that you mentioned earlier. Kittle's the type of guy that you can lean on the tools with when it comes to leverage. Sometimes people will jam Kittle. We have him at only 6% owned in the captain. We have positive leverage, almost 8% optimal captain. I like that. Only 4% top play probability. So a lot of this, though, is coming down to the fact that he's just not expensive. We have him slightly positively leveraged in the utility spot. You know what? Actually, one more thing that stands out to me, and if there's anything you want to hit on, go for it, because we don't have that many positively leveraged guys. The fact that the 3 of the 4 highest leverage plays are actually Minnesota players.
I think that's because of injury to J. Jeff. So you got Powell and Addison priced too cheap.
So you think maybe it's that, but also the fact that DraftKings or anyone else doesn't really know how to accurately project or price these guys right now?
I think that's the case. And then with Madison specifically, I think it's just a condensing of the volume. Like they're not only are they too cheap, but you can reasonably predict where volume's going to go. And while it's a little spread target wise in Minnesota, we know the 4 players that are on the field, and one of them is 2,800. So it's whether it goes Powell gets 4 targets or 6 targets. I mean, he's a value regardless.
Yeah, he is. Are there any guys that we haven't talked about that you just want nothing to do with? And when I say nothing to do with it, doesn't mean you're not going to get there. You just don't like it, be it a Cam Akers or a Juszczyk, who we always love to talk about. I mean, Kyle Juszczyk at Showdowns always figures something out. Is there anybody, Bell, that we haven't gotten to? I just want to make sure we cover all our bases here.
Yeah, Akers, he's not expensive, so I think you could play him. I still anticipate this being like at least a 70-30 split in favor of Madison, if not further. But I mean, they traded for the guy. Who knows? He's at least worth putting in your pool. Receivers beyond Powell for Minnesota are just downright horrific. I want no part of N'Keal Harry or Tristan Jackson. I think even Josh Oliver's getting a little thin. He only ran 2 routes last week. Like the guy was just blocking like crazy, which is insane to me. He was the exact opposite in college. Then you got CJ Ham. He sometimes like falls into the end zone once or twice. But yeah, man, the true dusty punt plays are awfully gross today, which leads us to Powell. I think your main pivot should be Ray McLeod. If you're getting crazy, I would prefer Ronnie Bell.
Okay. Who's your biggest fade right now? If the slate were to start right now.
It's probably KJ Osborne, but I don't know how much of a stand that is. I would just rather play the receivers at their respective prices on Minnesota other than him. So if we're going to talk about just the studs, I think it might be Kirk Cousins. And honestly, that comes down to he doesn't run at all. There's a lot of condensing, up at the top for these San Francisco players, the skills especially. So am I going to play Kirk Cousins at 10.6K or get to Ayuk, McCaffrey, and maybe even a Purdy in that game? So I think among the studs, it's going to be Cousins. And then just in general, it's going to be KJ Osborne.
Where are you at on captaining Purdy today? Because he's good, he's efficient, but when you've got a guy like Christian McCaffrey back there, sometimes it feels like Brock Purdy at that price point might be, it's unfair for me to say slightly overpriced because he has been good. He has been efficient. It's just, he works with super low pass volume, man. Like he's attempted under 30 passes in all but one game this season. That's crazy.
I think your point is well taken. Makes a lot of sense. And our tools agree. We have him negatively leverage at captain, positively leverage in flex. That not only is the low volume, but he's priced expensively too. And we know like a 30% target share is going to Ayuk for 600 more. So there's just a very real chance that Ayuk outscores Purdy, even on a price adjusted basis, because so many targets are funneled to him. And then that doesn't even include McCaffrey, who just has a monster ceiling regardless. So yeah, I'm with you. I still think you want to play Purdy, but for me, it's flex.
Shall we build a lineup before we go?
Let's do it, man.
Mike, pull the lineup generator up first. I want to see what that's giving us for this slate. Now, Matt, here's what I want to ask you. So, Mike, go to DraftKings Showdown, and after that, go to all lineups. This is a lineup generator, guys, by the way. It's the best bang for your buck you will find as far as DFS products go, 100%. Link in the description and chat if you want to check it out. You can see the ownership, how contrarian every lineup is, or how chalky it is. You can see the optimal projection. You can save whatever lineups you want, discard the ones you don't like, send them straight over. You can see your exposures, especially if it's the main slate. You can see all your stack exposures. You can see everything, right? Like every lineup in there, export it straight to CSV. You could be firing a dump off, and it's optimized for mobile, straight from your phone. I'm serious, Matt. It's true. Optimized straight from your phone. $14.95 for the week, but I promise you, there's no better deal out there for something like this. Whether you're maybe short on time, maybe you're playing with like a lower bankroll, that's okay. Like this is perfect for that. You can build out a lot of lineups, throw it in the CSV. You can lock players and swap players. You can make those decisions on your own. Oh, no, Mike, go back. That's what I was saying. Wait, after we go to I want to ask Matt a question here. So, anyway, it's in the description and chat if you want to check it out. Lineup generator is such a cool tool. Go to all lineups. Should we just go standard projections or do you have a lean? Because you can this is the coolest thing for Showdown. This is for main slate too, but for Showdown, we have this feature where you can boost the score. You could boost one team, deboost another team, deboost both teams. So if you're like, man, this is going to be a slog fest. It's going to be a shitty game. It's going to be greasy, as Matt likes to say. You could boost them or deboost both of them by 6 points. Do you have any feel for this, or do you want to go standard projections?
So my favorite subset for larger tournaments is to do some of the boosts so you get unique lineups. I think San Francisco could cover this spread. So my favorite boost tonight would be looking to take San Francisco on like an alt line situation where they're winning by more than the projected spread.
Okay. Also, what you can do, so let's say you're playing like a 20 max, you can run a bunch of them with one of these scenarios, set of projections, and then go back, save is what you want, and then go back and just run a different scenario.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Okay.
That's literally what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go. So you want to go San Fran up, Minnesota down?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Let's see what we get. Go ahead, Mike.
That's the one I was really curious too, because I wanted to see how much Mitchell that would give us, you know?
For sure. Let's scroll these lineups. I want to see what we're getting with the best. Addison, don't scroll too quick. Trying to see if we have any Mitchell.
So there were two things I thought this construction might give us. Mike's doing it right now. I didn't do it. I think we might get more Mitchell. And then I was curious how much Minnesota pass catcher we would get because, you know, they're trailing, they're down, they're throwing a lot. Like one of my intuitions was maybe we look at guys like Addison and the captain for leverage too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Addison, you're saying like instead of a dirt cheap pal, Addison, especially, you know what else? As a rookie, sometimes that stands out to me because sometimes these guys just become more prevalent in an offense each week. Addison has another week without Justin Jefferson. Is it possible that he has like 10 targets? I think it's certainly possible. Can we project for that? No. But like you said, we're already projecting with this set of projections for it to be a 49ers, up early. San Francisco or Minnesota has to throw.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a Brandon Powell captain lineup. Powell, Madison, Ayuk, Osborne, Cousins, Hawkinson. So that's a 5. Those are super contrarian that really stand out to me in large field tournaments.
I agree. I think Powell's going to be very contrarian. I like some of those builds you just mentioned.
Plus, what if like Ayuk just has a monster game and then Mitchell has one but doesn't do a lot else and McCaffrey has one but he doesn't get there because he's so expensive? That's possible.
The thing. Yeah, the thing is like those guys can have good games, still not get their price adjusted if it's just a good game, not like an amazing game.
Anyway, you guys want to check the lineup generator out. Like you can see all exposures. For the main slate, it's awesome too because you can see the stacks. But I love the Showdown builds for something like this. Check it out. If you don't like it, you're not down much. I think you'll love it though. It's down there if you want to try it. Want to build a lineup by ourselves here?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're up. I started off at captain last game.
Let's do this Addison build, see what we get.
Oh, I like it. All right. I like it. We'll go Addison. I'll make things a little easier, or not easier on us, but I'll just go chalky here. I'll throw Ayuk into the flex.
I'll throw Powell. We'll definitely need some savings. I think he's the preferred option. You could pivot to McLeod if you'd like the leverage, but we already did Addison captain.
All right. So I think at this point, I have to go Kirk Cousins because if we're going Powell and Addison, I'm working under the assumption that we're playing this for a game script, like you said, where they have to throw. I know that Madison had 7 targets last game, but more times than not, I think you're going to see these actual pass catchers getting more work. So give me Cousins. That still gives us 72 per player, 7,200 per player remaining.
I want to get McCaffrey. You think we can do it?
Let's try it. Yeah.
All right. McCaffrey.
It's going to put us in a shit zone, but it gives you McLeod, Akers, Bell, Juszczyk.
This is probably duped. Not a lot, though. But if you put McLeod in, I think you feel pretty good about this lineup.
I don't hate it.
Me either.
Addison, Ayuk, Powell, Cousins, McCaffrey, McLeod.
Yes.
Not that bad at all.
No.
What if you went? I just want to see if this could work. So if you went Kittle over McCaffrey, you could go Kittle Madison, Kittle Osborne.
Ooh, those are nice.
Yeah, Kittle Madison's interesting to me.
I like those.
A 4-2. How often do you think you want to get to Cousins Purdy builds?
Not a lot. I think it's going to be tough.
I do too. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to get to something like that, just given that Purdy is, both of these guys are expensive. I think, man. So can we try? Well, let's try one thing before we go, because we saw that Brandon Powell was 11% optimal captain, not top play probability. Brandon Powell's top play probability is very low. It's at 1%, but that doesn't matter because you don't need him to be the top play. The reason we talk DraftKings a lot on this is because you have that 1.5 salary multiplier plus 1.5 fantasy points at captain. Let's try a lineup with Brandon Powell at captain before we go.
All right. So Powell starting?
Yeah, Powell at captain. That gives us 9,200 remaining per player.
Well, McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey. I'm going to jam Ayuk here.
I like that. We still have 76.
I don't care if this gets chalky. I just want to see what type of builds you can make out of a Powell.
I'll go captain. Addison after that.
You said Addison?
Yeah.
All right. I'll go Cousins.
You're in a really good range. Kickers, defenses,
wow.
Jennings.
Wow. This will be chalky for sure. That's the thing. Just keep in mind, keep in mind that if you have somebody like Brandon Powell, who might not be massively owned at captain, you're still going to see a lot of really chalky builds because anyone who's going Brandon Powell at captain is going to just jam all the top plays. So I just wanted to see what we could do. If you go with a kicker here or Jennings, it's going to be chalky. But man, if you left salary on the table and ended up going Kittle over Ayuk or something like that, that gets super unique.
Yeah, I like those.
You could go, how about this? And by the way, we love Ayuk in this spot, hands down. But you could go Powell, McCaffrey, Kittle, Addison, Cousins, Madison.
That sounds nice.
There's a lot you can do. Wow. That's why Powell captain is getting positive. A lot you can do.
We're playing Powell captain.
Woo. Anyway, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter. Follow me at Laffy_D. If you guys aren't yet, for both of us, come say hi. Make sure you're repping that avatar too and hit us up. It's Stochastic HOF if you want to get that free month, $200 value. Just finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Use that avatar and we're in business, baby. Anyway, fun show, guys. Appreciate your support all the time. Nuked 150 plus likes, 164, Matt. So heck of a show. Heck of a show. Good stuff as always, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you very much, and good luck tonight.
Yeah, man. We'll see you back here live before lock. Neil Orfield and myself, 7:15, right smack in the middle of the fucking Phillies game. Of course. That's okay. We love what we do. Shout out to Mike for producing. We'll catch you guys back here for the next one. Peace.